Let's just get right into it. There's this philosophy that's been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years, and it explains almost everything that's frustrating about the modern world of work. Look, you know the routine. You work hard, you stay late, you put in the hours because you figure, hey, that's what you're supposed to do.
You're a team player, right? You jump in to help your coworkers, you clean up their messes. You're the one people can count on when things get tough. You think your boss is your mentor, maybe even your friend.
And then, bam, the promotion you were a shoo-in for, it goes to someone else. Or even worse, you get laid off in a 2-minute Zoom call by that same mentor. And you're just left there thinking, what just happened? I did everything right. I was a good person. Well, here's the cold, hard truth. The problem wasn't them. The problem was your strategy. See, thinking that just being a good person is enough to get you rewarded by the system, that's a trap. It's actually a terrible career strategy.
And you know what? This isn't some new, modern problem. The explanation for why this happens was written down over 2,000 years ago, a warning from a time long before corporations and cubicles ever existed.
Now everybody's heard of Machiavelli, right? His famous line, "It is better to be feared than loved." But centuries before him, this Chinese philosopher named Han Fei had a take that was so much darker, so much colder. He basically said, forget fear and love. They're totally useless. The real goal? Become a machine. Han Fei's entire philosophy, his whole system for managing people and gaining power, it all boils down to this brutally simple idea he called the two handles.
So his philosophy is called legalism, and what it does is it just strips away all the fuzzy stuff, morality, company culture, loyalty, all of it. It's built on one single belief: human beings are predictable. We're not good, we're not evil, we're just self-interested. We will always, without fail, move towards pleasure and away from pain.
So if you're a leader who follows this, you only have two tools. That's it: reward and punishment. You give pleasure for the behavior you want, and you inflict pain for the behavior you don't. That's the whole playbook. Forget inspiring speeches or team-building retreats. There are only two handles, and they control everything. To really get how ruthless this system is, Han Fei tells this incredible story. So imagine a king. He's been drinking, it's late, and he passes out in his garden. As he's sleeping, the night gets really, really cold. Now, the official in charge of the king's hats sees him shivering and thinks, oh no, my king is freezing, I've got to do something. His intentions are totally pure, right? He just wants to help. So he grabs the king's royal robe and gently drapes it over him. Seems like a nice thing to do. So the king wakes up later, he's warm, he's comfortable, he asks who covered him, and someone points out the keeper of the hat. So, what do you think happened? How did the king repay this loyal, kind-hearted gesture? He ordered the execution of 2 people. Not 1, 2.
And you have to understand the logic, because it's chillingly perfect. First, he punishes the official keeper of the robe. Why? For negligence. It was his job to keep the king warm, and he failed. But then, he also punishes the keeper of the hat. And why him? For doing a job that wasn't his.
And that right there is the core of legalism. Your good intentions, they mean absolutely nothing. In this kind of system, the system is all that matters. Competence isn't about being nice or helpful. Competence is flawlessly executing your specific job, staying in your lane, because stepping outside your role, even with the best intentions, is seen as a threat to the whole machine. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's a pretty intense story from ancient China. But what does that have to do with my 9 to 5? Well, turns out it has everything to do with it. Because that ancient, brutal operating system, it's making a huge comeback. We just call it something different now.
Han Fei's philosophy, it never really died. It was just waiting for the right technology to come along. And now it has. Today, it's running some of the biggest companies on the planet. We just call it the algorithm.
I mean, think about it. Think about a place like Amazon or Uber. You're not really managed by a person who has good days and bad days. You're managed by a system that applies the two handles with perfect, cold efficiency. For an Amazon worker, your pick rate is always being measured. Go faster than the target, you might get a bonus. That's the reward handle. Fall behind, you get an automated warning, and then eventually you're terminated. That's the punishment handle. There's no one to talk to, there's just the data. Han Fei actually described this perfectly. He wrote that the ideal leader should be like a black box, invisible, showing no emotion, no preference. Because if you know what makes your boss happy, you'll just try to please them.
If you know what they hate, you'll hide it. But an algorithm, you can't read it, you can't charm it. It just forces you to do the task because the system is the only thing that matters. And this is the trade-off right here. A human boss can be inspiring, sure, but they're also emotional, they're biased, they're inconsistent, they have favorites. The algorithm is the total opposite. It's completely impartial, it's 100% data-driven, and in a cold, mathematical way, it's perfectly fair. It treats everyone the exact same way. It only measures what you do, not who you are.
Which brings us to a really uncomfortable question, one that we have to ask ourselves about what we really want from our jobs. We're always saying we want more humanity at work, right? We want compassionate leaders, people who get us. But let's be totally honest with ourselves. Humans are messy. We play favorites. We have bad moods. We make irrational, emotional calls all the time. The machine, it does none of that. So I'm just going to leave you with this question. When you go to work tomorrow, think about what you truly prefer. Would you rather work for a nice guy boss whose personal biases and good intentions might accidentally screw you over? Or would you rather work for a cold, heartless system that is absolutely brutally fair? The answer might not be as simple as you think.